Well, I went to graduate school here, and Miss Roan was actually the head of the women's PE department. There was no women's sports. Title IX, I came in 75. Title IX had been implemented in 72. And they had teams, but they were women that were teaching in the PE department.
Sure.
And she went about over the course of the next few years of building the department, and we were moved under student affairs.
Oh, wow.
And we had a suite of offices, and so you could really say I was there from the ground up.
Certainly, I think your journey probably looks differently than mine does.
Very.
But I think we probably have similarities too, which can be good and bad after 50 years of this legislation and the opportunities that have been given. It's always a reminder how much work we still have to do. And so I think that's something that, you know, I take seriously, and other women in our department and I think in our industry take seriously too. But I am obviously really thankful for all of the opportunities that you gave to somebody like me, because I think if it weren't for the dedication and the time and the energy that you put into women's athletics here and just the department in general, I certainly don't think that I would have had the opportunity to sit here, because you really made a huge difference.
Well, thank you very much. You know, a lot of the accolades really go to even some of the women that came before me. I reaped the benefits of those, and they were the warriors. They were the ones that had a vision and fought the battles, and you know, had things in place. There was a lot of growth to be done. There were a lot of bridges to be built. You know, not all men's departments embraced the women's athletic department at the time. But that was part of the process, you know, earning respect, and a lot of the coaches, the male coaches, felt like that we were going to succeed at their expense. So one of my primary focuses early on was to build relationships and trust.
You know, I think the 2 points that you referenced are a piece of advice that I got whenever I was starting out in the industry. I'm going on, I think, year 19, and it was, you know, carrying on what's been really successful, putting your own mark on it, but also building relationships. And so as I knew, working through athletics, being a woman in athletics, it was just really important to have relationships, you know, within your department, across campus, within the community, and then you could really tell your story at that point, and tell the story of others, and tell the story of our student athletes. And so certainly being in this position, and I was the SWA at a previous institution as well, it's just being able to do that and putting my own mark on it, but just really representing what we're doing and representing it well, and you know, leaving it better than we found it. I think that's always really important. And just continuing to strive to build and make experiences better than you know, than they were before we got here.
It's about opportunity. I was an athlete at Alabama. They started giving scholarships the year after I left, but I was part of their early program there. And just to watch that growth has just been remarkable through the years. But I've also watched other young women that were given some of those first scholarships. As a matter of fact, I spoke at a dinner several years ago when I was on the women's basketball committee, and part of what I talked about was the journey. And I actually called Betty Booker Parkes, who was one of our first scholarship recipients here and still holds a lot of records. She was just an incredible athlete. And I asked her, well, you know, what did that opportunity mean for you? And she said, Lynn, it was all about the education. She said, I would have never had that. I wouldn't be who I am today. And ironically, that same year, she was an official in the NCAA tournament.
That's awesome.
So I saw her as a coach here at one time. I saw her as an athlete, and then beyond that as an NCAA official. And it really did my heart good to know that the University of Memphis, or Memphis State at that time, gave that young woman that kind of opportunity and completely changed her life.
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly the word opportunity comes to mind for me too, just because it can provide pathways to life-changing chances that may not come along otherwise. You know, I also think, you know, from my perspective, being able to, you know, I think have an impact on the next generation. That certainly this era of Title IX looks much differently than when I was growing up, certainly your era as well, and just how it's evolved over time. So I think embracing the opportunities that I have now to further expand the opportunities that are there for our student athletes is, I think, the environment for our student athletes has changed so much, and that's something that was really a big driver for our 901 Women initiative. Sure. One, to be able to specifically focus on generating resources for our women and our facilities. We know how much it's all tied to recruitment and retention of our student athletes. We have really competitive programs. We want to be able to get to the next level. We know that's all tied together, but also really focusing on leadership and development and mentoring for our student athletes, our women, both in our department and our women student athletes too. I just feel it's such a sense of responsibility that I have to them, of all of the hats that I wear in addition to everybody else.
I remember those.
Many hats.
Yes.
That is just one that is so specific to this role that I take to heart so much. That a lot of times it can be hard to find that time to really focus on it, but there's no better time than right now, I think, to expand what we've been able to do. But it all goes back to the fact that 50 years, you're able to look and see what's transformed over time, and then you wonder what can come in the next 25 years and what that could possibly look like. I think I'll be retired by that point. I hope so anyway. But there's still a lot of time to be able to do really great things. And so, I want to be able to, again, establish a legacy for our student athletes who are here now and have them remember what they were able to learn here as a woman,
right,
as a student athlete, in a very supportive community, and knowing that there were people that really invested time and energy into them. Because I think there's no better reward for somebody in the role that we have served in, especially coming from our women, is thank you. I just always think that that's wonderful. And it means, it's such a simple phrase, but it just means so much because you had an impact on their experience here. And as an administrator, I feel like that's such a huge responsibility that the decisions that we make define their experience here. Certainly they have a hand in it, but a lot of times what we choose to do with our resources, with our time, with our programming, it directly impacts what our student athletes are able to gain out of being at Memphis and being here. And so for us to be able to tie that into such a special time, in the 50th year of Title IX and have it be sustained, I think is key.
Lauren, I think the best is yet to come. Mm-hmm. I really do. Years ago, I can remember we had a fundraiser here, an associate AD who had daughters, and we sat one afternoon talking, and he said, "Lynn, when will it all come to fruition?" And I said, "Lee, I think it'll be another generation mm-hmm. of dads that have daughters mm-hmm. That see the opportunities." We always heard about the life lessons that were learned mm-hmm. through sport. And my point at the time was women learn those same life lessons. It's not specific to men. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at Fortune 500 companies today and the number of women that are Fortune 500 CEOs, mm-hmm. it's remarkable the percentage of them that were college athletes.
Absolutely.
And if that's not a testament to mm-hmm. how competitive sports impact women, not just men, but women as well, it gives them a voice, mm-hmm. it gives them a confidence, it gives them opportunities that just don't come. There are other ways,
sure,
but that part can't be denied.
Mm-hmm. Especially for our women, for them to see somebody in this role who takes an interest in them, but they also are able to see, a woman operate in a man's world. All these years later, it's still a man's world in athletics, as we know. We've done a really good job of integration, but as we know, we know the pendulum swings, a lot of times in one way in terms of what our staff makeups look like. But for them to be able to see somebody who is relatable, approachable, supportive, and again, them just being willing to open up to us, but just being that role model for them is something that I really take seriously. And like you said, having them come in and watch them grow and develop and become, really great stewards of themselves, of the university, of the community, and then be able to go do great things. And it's nice to play a small part in that.
I go back to what I originally said. The best is yet to come. I don't have any doubt about that. We have young administrators like you that are now carrying the torch and have a vision for what comes next. And without women that had that vision years ago, we would be even farther behind than we are today.
Sure.
And I think that's one thing that young administrators today, they've been a part of it, so they know the value of it. So they come in with an appreciation, and they want to continue that and make it better. So I have great faith in the young female administrators that are making their way through this.
Well, I think it's also really important, and that's a huge reason as to why I took this opportunity, was to have a very supportive athletic director.
Right.
I think that we can only move the needle as much as we have support at that level. If you're not in that chair, you need to make sure the person in that chair is aligning with what you want to try and accomplish.
Exactly.
And we're really fortunate in that obviously Laird is highly supportive of our women. He has daughters. I think that's huge. Daughters who are college age and getting ready to go to college, and they're moving on to their next phase of life, and all the challenges and good things that come along with that. But for us to be able to accomplish what we need, we obviously need an athletic director who's very engaged in that. And I remember his first conversation with me, that was my question, was, I'm in a good situation where I am. I don't want to move somewhere just to check a box. I want to know that I can have an impact. And he has lived up to it, every day. I'm really, really thankful for that.
Right.
Because I just don't feel that ultimately somebody in this role cannot be successful unless there's synergy with that position. And being able to have the autonomy to make decisions, to have a voice, and just to have that level of respect. Well, I'm sure you feel the same way. I just feel very fortunate to have this opportunity, certainly here at Memphis. And I also think the best is yet to come. And, hopefully I can help move the needle here and continue to make it a great experience for our women and for all of those that are coming down the road too.
I have no doubt you will. I have no doubt at all.